Well, I am so excited to be joined by our good friend, Louis Medina and Sunken City Designs. He is one of the co-hosts over at Walt's Apartment Podcast, and we are so stoked to work alongside him and be part of the newly created Imagine That podcast. Louis, my friend, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. Staying busy, staying active. Overall, trying to balance the pixie dusting and Lewis mentality on a daily basis. But I'm doing good. Glad to be here.
Love it. So, for our Standby Quest prize this month, we are going to be giving away a 5x7 print of the Haunted Mansion inspired print called Mansion Buddy. It has the three hitchhiking ghosts and the Mad Hatter from Alice in Wonderland as the Hatbox Ghost. It's awesome. So, I'm so excited to dive into this design, but first, let's learn more about you and your story. When did Sunken City Designs come to be, and where did the name come from?
So Sunken City started. Let's see. I'm horrible. I don't have my date. So I want to say it was middle of 2020. So originally Sunken City was going by the name Medina Inc. And what happened was I had this what I called envelope sale, and it was a very desperate sale. It was one of those sales that was like, hey, we got bills to pay, and thinking I can flip art within a day. So I had envelopes full of prints, stickers, basically envelopes filled with everything in my inventory for like a flat rate. And so that was a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday deal. Well, Sunday, I woke up in a great mood to just rebrand. So in the middle of this big sale, I am also working simultaneously on rebranding because at the time Medina Inc. was very sloppy. I had designs on the internet, on T-shirt or T Public and Redbubble, just all over the place, just to try to make an income to sell my art. And it was more income driven than art driven. So then I had the realization like, hey, this is getting sloppy. It's out of hand. The email titles look like I'm fresh out of junior high school with like some fun tag. So I was like, this is sloppy. So I came up with the name. I came up with about 12 different names, and Sunken City Designs is the one that's sunken most, no pun intended. And the reason being was Sunken City is a place where I'm originally from, which is San Pedro, and Sunken City is something that's no longer there, but still very much talked about. Like it's a modern day ruins in San Pedro. It's close to the public. There is ways to get in to it. If you know how, you know how. If you don't, it's one of those things you got to know, because if not, you get in trouble for being down there. And I really like the parody of, hey, it's not there, but everyone still talks about that. I really like that play. So with Medina Inc. and having a lot of people ask like, hey, when are you doing shows? Are you still drawing? Having all that, but yet there was no income to show for it. It's like, hey, everybody wants this, but nobody wants this. So it's a cool, just kind of parallel like way of saying, hey, if this will stick, it will stick. If not, then it is. So Sunken City is named after the Sunken City in San Pedro, which is I'm originally from.
I
And
had no idea that
yeah,
that's where the name came from.
yep, it came from San Pedro.
Wow,
Yep,
that's
It was
incredible.
created out here in the Yucca Valley, Morongo Basin Desert, but it's originally from San Pedro.
Wow,
Yep.
that's crazy. Learn something
Yes.
new. That's awesome.
So
So,
we're going on like, roughly 4 years this June. I know the month.
well, happy early anniversary.
Thank you. Thank you.
Quite the accomplishment. So,
Yeah.
what was your first design?
So my first design is it's called Tom the Hatter, and Tom the Hatter it's like a teddy bear, and it has a top hat, very much like a teddy bear meets the Mad Hatter kind of parody. And that one was a design that I did. So when I first ever got the interest to draw, I was about 8 years old, and so my oldest brother was doing a graffiti tag, and he had a teddy bear sitting on two baby blocks, but the baby blocks letters were in like a graffiti letter. And so I really just liked drawing the teddy bear, but I always draw it very much like a beaten up teddy bear where a piece of the ear is ripped. It's normally not drawn with the body. Usually it has just the jagged neck, like the head was ripped off of a teddy bear, really throwing that like uncomfortable vibe on it. And so over the years, it was just the Hatter Bear. That's what I called him. But then after I started trying to become more organized with my art, giving the pieces their names, the name evolved into Tom the Hatter, and it became a very like icon drawing that I would do every time I picked up a new medium. So when I used to do pencil drawings, I have the version of Tom as a pencil drawing. When I started messing around with ink and color for the longest time, I would not mess around with ink and color. It was just pencils. When I started doing ink and color, I have that variation of Tom. When I first got into digital work and started actually putting money into my brand, Tom the Hatter was the first design that I paid to get vectored. And then recently, when Sunken City kind of went as my full-time job, Tom's Mental Health became the recent piece, which is up on the website currently, and that is the next evolution of Tom. So Tom the Hatter, that teddy bear design, was not only my first design when I sunk my teeth into doing this like as an artist and saving my artwork, but that was the first and still the continued piece that I go back to whenever I'm trying a new medium. Wood burning. I messed around with wood burning for a very brief moment, like 48 hours. And Tom the Hatter was the first and only design I did of that. And I realized that wood burning is not my it's not my forte. You got to have a lot of patience, and I don't have that. So wood burning did not last very long.
I love that. I didn't know that either. I just saw recently your mental health piece, and I didn't know that Tom was like consistent throughout your entire journey and that it has such a special meaning to you.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's been here since probably freshman year in high school. That's when it became a real that character became a thing, and then he's just been evolving ever since.
Wow.
Yep.
That's really cool. So, who do you look to, or how do you get your inspiration for a new piece, or just for your design in general?
So for a new piece, when I'm drawing or creating, it comes from a lot of different things. One, it comes from the street art vibe, the graffiti, the grunginess of it. Another pillar of it is the new school tattooing. Like I love new school tattoo art. I love the very just broken up and not like you'll see characters with a very oversized head and a small body, but when it's designed, it looks like it makes sense. So I like that. But also an inspiration of my art is watching the Disney cartoons. A lot of the Disney cartoons, I see the innocence in it, and then I'm like, all right, well, what if we took that and just flipped it upside down? One piece that I've done recently that took me about a year and a half to finish that I really think paints a vision of me taking the Disney stuff and throwing a spin on it really goes to the Twisted Dwarfs. The Twisted Dwarfs really, there was two different stories for that. It was I wanted to do a dwarf for each of the bigger holidays, and I started with Bashful, and it was Bashful instead of being all flirtatious. It's him biting into an anatomical heart, and that was gonna be my Valentine's dwarf. Then later on for Easter, it was gonna be Dopey, dressed up as the Easter Bunny, but headless, and his head was in the Easter basket. Like it's so. But then between work and my extracurricular activities of being all over the place, it just never kept going. So unfortunately, it didn't continue, and I sat on it for about a year, and then I really put the pedal to the metal and really started knocking it out. And then that's where the Twisted Dwarfs came, and then the witch that gave them the apple came, and then it became its own separate piece all by itself.
And that piece is awesome.
Thank you.
Like you can stare at it for an hour and just pick up all these different things, um, and really analyze each dwarf individually and then as a collective whole. It is such a wonderfully designed piece.
Yeah, and between Disney, graffiti, um, new school art, but also just really a lot of YouTube artists hearing and seeing their stuff is really inspiring. So it's like they say with mixed media, like my art or my creations that I do are very inspired by mixed media. So I really like looking at all things artistically and adding a flair to it. But and then again, throwing it up on its head, messing
Right.
with parodies, like, hey, that makes sense. So like my newest piece that I'm working on, it's a cat eating seafood, but it's a street cat, so I called it street sushi.
I love it. And I've seen the progression as you're working on it. And that's what I love is seeing the different iterations of it. And that was going to be my next question of how describing your process when you do create a new piece, and how long the process can take from start to finish.
So it depends on the piece. So some pieces take quite a bit. So for instance, the street sushi piece, that one probably now is going on about 2.5 weeks of really just looking at the design, figuring out the anatomy. I didn't do any art school besides the art class in high school, so anatomy is a challenge of mine. Things of that matter are so I sometimes trying to figure out, hey, how is that going to look? How is that hand going to move? Or sometimes that's a bit of a challenge. So really pushing that takes some time. But then there are pieces like O'Toole, which is a robot that I did for an art show last September. He was a robot holding an anatomical heart and a human brain popping on the top. And the design from sketching it to inking it to vectoring it, which is like putting it in the computer and painting it, that was about overall 8 to 12 hours if I took all the time and condensed it. So some things just really happen, and some designs never really take off to go farther. There are pieces that I have on my hard drive that have never seen the light of the day because they just I'm not feeling them. They feel like they're missing something. So therefore, they're completed pieces in my eyes, but I don't think they have the potential to do anything. So therefore, they just sit there until I'm ready to redo them or let them go and push them out.
Is there a piece that you started, kind of put on the shelf, and then maybe a year or so later came back to it and said, ah, that's what's missing, and now it's out?
Let's see. I know I have some. Let's see what I have on my wall right now. Um, I think one that I would say is Jerry the Octopus.
Okay.
Jerry the Octopus is a design that sat in my sketchbook for quite some time. And then I decided just to take a picture of it because I was here at the office. Didn't have nothing new to vector. So I was like, let me do that one. And then Jerry became one of my more recent favorite designs. Like I thought Jerry the Octopus came out really cool. And the reason why that engine started going again was I was getting prepared to dabble in the world of NFTs.
Mm.
I didn't do that because Jerry, I just had so much fun designing it. But I was like, I don't know how to design stuff to change pieces. So I designed him, and he's a yellow octopus holding a paint bucket and a paint roller. And he has blue paint to kind of, so he's in a way, he's using his ink to paint. So kind of just a little fun play on words. Obviously, we know octopus ink, or they let out whatever the technical term is for it. So then I was like, that'd be cool if he's a painter and he's using his ink to paint. So
Right.
Jerry the Octopus is a painter.
I love it. And that's what I was saying too, of like all of your pieces, they have either a comical aspect to it or a deeper hidden meaning that it could be a play on words, like you were saying, or just something like mentally is kind of off-putting, but in a good way, and it really takes us out of what we associate to be the norm of a character that we know, or maybe not, and flip it on its head, like you were saying. And so that's what I love about your pieces is that there there's a lot more than just what's on the surface. And you can really sit and look at each character individually and then as the collective whole and find all of these things to love about it. Like we're going to talk about the Mansion Buddy print, and there's some things that I've noticed that I didn't notice right off the bat, but diving deeper into it, I'm like, Oh, okay. Okay. I see you. I see what you did. So we'll
Uh,
get into that in just a second.
yeah,
Uh,
a lot more of my original pieces have a lot more of a unique spin on them. I mean, O'Toole was I mean, O'Toole stands for overthinking and underloved. And
mm,
it's kind of a play on it because a robot, obviously a robot, you expect it to do things. Like this is what you do and this is only what you do. So I looked at it as like, all right, so let me draw a robot that shouldn't have feelings, but here it is. The underloved part caused him to overthink. And so therefore a robot got so emotional that he's now holding his heart out to people by nobody taking and helping him. His brain popped off because he's overthinking like why. So it's just kind of a full little parody of it. And
yeah,
that piece right there didn't get to live too long because the original was drawn and framed for an art show that happened 2 days later and then was sold. So O'Toole, I have a soft spot for because normally I don't sell my originals until like I'm ready to let them go. So they sit on ice with me for quite some time. But O'Toole, he wasn't here very long, and so now I cherish the print because that's all I got. I mean, I have the rough drafts of them and I can recreate them, but it's not the same.
right.
Yeah.
Right. So is there a design or a series that you would love to do, but you just haven't started yet?
Ooh, that's a good question. There is there are designs that I would like to do that I haven't, and some of those would be well, one, um, I am a huge Splash Mountain fan. Like I love Splash, and so there's a couple different designs that I have thought about for Brer Bear, Brer Rabbit, and Brer Fox. One of those being, and going back to the Haunted Mansion, with the ride closing, drawing the three of them in a very light and dark shades of blue, looking like the hitchhikers because now they need to ride somewhere else.
Yeah,
One of the reasons why I don't is just because of the fact that I want to try to recreate them so close to who they are already that it takes the fun out of it. So it's like, no, but also, too, I don't want to change them so much that people don't recognize who they are. I did that with Figment. I mean, I drew Figment in my style, and Figment very much gets confused with Dragon Tales, Spyro. And so it's like, man, that sucks because I thought it was a fun drawing, but it gets very confused. So I don't want those three to be confused and forgotten, but at the same time, too, I like those characters as they are. So I don't know how I would redraw them where I would appreciate what I did and appreciate that I've done some value to those characters. So I really want to work on that piece. But other than that, though, Jungle Book is another series I would love to play with, being one of my favorite movies. But I've never dabbled in it, just because the cartoons drawn back then were so quick and seamless that when you take your time to try to draw them and you force it too much, it doesn't look like them.
right.
So it's very much like Tim Burton's art style. Like it's hard to replicate Tim Burton's art style because there is no style to it. It's just him aggressively scribbling out designs and adding so much texture to it that you eventually just realize that looks cool. And it's like it looks cool because who did it and knowing his mindset that you're like, I really like that. But if we were to scribble during an office meeting something that cool, it wouldn't be that cool because they saw how effortless it was. So some of the original Disney cartoons are really hard to draw just because you can try so hard to redo them that you push it too hard. It's like, oh, that looks funny. So
Right. Yeah.
yeah, Snow White is a prime example. I mean, her eyes move all over her forehead in that movie. And so it's really hard to line them up where that looks normal when normal looks awkward. So it's hard sometimes.
I understand what you're saying. I think a Splash Mountain Haunted Mansion mashup would be really cool though.
Yeah. That
And
and
that makes sense.
I'm a sucker though. I was a sucker. I also try not I have friends sometimes, oh, you're missing opportunities. You're not drawing this. It's like I draw what I feel and like,
Right.
hey, that sounds cool to draw today. A lot of friends of mine, if let's see, Wish being the new thing. I saw a lot of fan art of Wish, and I did not dabble in it because the fact that I was like, I'll wait for that to marinate a little bit more before I jump into the field of everybody drawing Wish. And now it's like, hey, do you want my Valentino or the other 30 artists that drew Valentino? So
Right.
try to keep myself different, because that's what also challenges the art walks, is when we go and everybody's got their Pokemon art, their, hey, this is Mickey Mouse art. Like, it's also hard times. So you got to give something that people really want to see, to buy, and be different than everybody else. So I try to challenge myself with original artwork. And then when I go with the fan art, I go with stuff that is not as common as everybody else is drawing.
That makes sense.
Well,
It makes a lot of sense. Well, do you have a favorite design in your collection?
oh, that's hard. That's hard because I obviously I would go Tom the Hatter because he's my
Right.
original, and there's like that sentimental value to it. Um, that is, I'm looking around right now because I'm a little weird. I'm one of the few people that have their own art displayed in their office. I don't have other artists work in my office except for one. I would have to say the Plague Doctor of the Bayou is probably one of my favorites. It's not my favorite because, like any artist would probably tell you, my favorite piece is like the one I'm working on right now because it's the
Mhm.
one. But if I had to pick one, I would say the Plague Doctor, just because that was a huge change in pace of how I was drawing and making artwork. There's so much layers and movement to it and pieces that it changed up how I draw. Because before it would be profile shots with like hands that didn't make sense anatomically. And I feel like the Play Doctor of the Bayou was probably my first push to doing full page designs, giving it a head, giving it a body, adding pieces to the body, adding pieces on top of those pieces. So I would say the Plague Doctor of the Bayou was probably my favorite one. And now that I think about it, I don't know where the original is. I probably sold it because at one point when I was in a pinch, I would sell originals for like $30. So it'd be nice to know where that went and see if I can buy it back from them, because I don't know where that's at. Yeah, I told myself a few years ago I wouldn't stop selling originals, and so far I've been pretty good on it, except for one piece, because originals are, it's hard. It's hard to let those go. But I would say my favorite piece is the Play Doctor of the Bayou.
That's a good one too. I
Yeah,
like that one a lot too.
that one was inspired by Princess and the Frog.
Right?
Yep. Very small piece in the movie. Dr. Facilier holds, he's like, I got a, what do you say? He's like, I got something on my mother's side. He holds a shrunken head. The way that shrunken head looked, I was like, that's so cool. And I sketched that out, and then I taped printer paper next to it and just started sketching out the full Plague Doctor. And yeah, I think that would be my favorite piece right now. Tomorrow it could change.
And side note, it was that piece when we saw your live the other day that Kevin's like, Shrunken Ned, obviously, let's go. And then it was
Yes.
like, oh, well, we're gonna do that. Let's do these.
Yep.
So okay. Um, so where do you want Sunken City Designs to be in 5 years?
Oh man. So me, so Sunken City. Obviously, I have a very small model to life. I would like to be able to afford a Sunday barbecue without stressing over income. Like I'm not looking to have bigger houses and fancy cars, but if I can throw a barbecue for whoever and how many people I want on a Sunday without having to check the bank account if I have enough for it, that's where I want it to be. But I also want to be able to have Sunken City be financially okay for not only myself or anybody else that I look to employ or that's helping me out, but also be at a state where I can use it as a platform to also give back and inspire youth to keep drawing. All of my artwork is done with draw pencils and markers that you could find at your local Walmart. I think anything that has a little bit more value of that was either gifted to me on Christmas or gifted to me on my birthday. But I go to the local Walmart here and buy all of my art supplies, so to say. So, and I do that to show youth and young adults and stuff like that. Anybody really, youth primarily, just because a lot of youth miss out on chances to just sketch and draw. And sometimes those artists, those younger artists, are just gifted naturally. Like they are madly skilled. So I would say I would like it to be in 5 years, just a place to tell my story, but also a place to allow others to learn their story and inspire them. I'm not looking to have it super big where it's we got stores and malls and all that. No, just a brand that when you see it, you know what it is. When people hear about it, they know what it is. But it's kind of self-efficient on, hey, those that know support it, and those that don't know what it is and know the meaning behind it. But Sunken City, I think, is just gonna very much going back to the root of it. It's something everybody knows, but it's not commonly seen. It's like when you know about it, you know about it, and when you don't, you'll have a chance. So it's hard to say because 5 years is really quick.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
But then if I am being selfish, if I can think of one goal, it'd be tight to have a Sunken City Disney like inspired piece, either in Wonderground, Disneyana, or Elias and Co. at Disneyland. It'd be really cool in 5 years if I am in Florida this time of year doing like the Festival of Arts, because I mean, no disrespect to those artists, but there are some artists on there that, not trying to sound cocky or arrogant, but I think my pencils will put their pencils under the table. Like they're just, I don't know how they made it, but I am not one to hate on other artists. But if I'm being selfish and setting a 5 year goal for myself, it'd be to hopefully push some of those other artists that don't want to say don't deserve there, but their art style is not pushing that level or that bar of artistry out of it and say and claiming their spot. But we will see.
Well, those are fantastic goals to have, and I see no reason why you shouldn't have a booth at the Festival of Arts. That would be amazing, and have a piece in any of the shops at Disney. That would be amazing, and be like, hey, I know that guy.
Yeah,
I know.
I love Disneyana. Wonderground I like as well, but unfortunately, it doesn't have that touch because it's
Right.
downtown Disney. But to get in Disneyana, a store that's been there since day one, oh my gosh, I can call
Hmm.
my life done. Well, no, I can't. I gotta wait a few years until my kids are 18 and they're taken care of. At that point, then I can check my life off as I made it.
But to your point with Disney, like there's something about that shop, like with the decorative ceilings and everything, like it just has that feel that the other shops don't have, you know? And with the bank vault and everything, like there's so much history there. And yeah, sorry, but the Wonderground doesn't have that.
The Wonderground, yeah, it especially after its last remodel, it's
Yeah.
and you go in there, it's still a beautiful store, but I mean, there's not as much unique artwork. It's become more merch than art. And so for me, that's what kind of lost the touch. As where Disneyana, you have everything that's in there is still artistry of some kind, whether it's the miniature models, the sculptures, and like that. As we're Wonderground, it's you got blankets, you got the Starbucks cups, you got the candle warmers, and so like that. It's like
Yeah.
okay, but and now being in the merchandise world, knowing how easy a lot of that stuff is to manufacture, that takes out the artistry look. Some people look at blankets with the artwork on it, like this is gorgeous. Now knowing about things, and I won't ruin the magic for those, but now knowing how a lot of the mechanics of making that stuff works, the artistry is not in there, and it's a tad bit sad. But I get in the business aspect, people want to see that. People want that. They don't really care about the artistry story about it. They just want their favorite Disney character on a blanket that they can cuddle with watching Disney movies. And hey, who am I to hate on that? So
Yeah. Well, I think too, like with the Disneyana um shop, that it is very warm and inviting, and allows you to stop and look and appreciate each piece and take your time. Whereas Wonderground seems more sterile in a way, and you're just kind of rushed through. So I really like the Disneyana feel of everything really. And I feel like they have the nice lighting on each piece and all of that. So
yeah,
in 5 years
absolutely.
time, your pieces are going to be up there.
Yeah, and Disneyana is if anyone gets a chance to just walk through there, but also take all those doors, walking from there into, especially right now, the Disney 100 exhibit outside of Lincoln, and then even into the hall. I think it's the Hall of Heroes. I think it's called, where that little that whole little corridor right there is so motivating for anything outside, whether it's artwork, whether it's acting, whatever your passion is. That little area just fuels that. I mean, even if you're just trying to be a sports player, something, I don't want to say simple, but something that's, well, there's a blueprint to how to do it. So that whole little corridor right there is so just like reviving of energy. So if you're ever feeling down and you're at the parks, that spot right there, you could walk through there and be motivated to change anything and everything.
It's so inspiring too.
Mm-hmm.
Like to your point, that whole area you can just stop and like lose track of time, just diving into each piece and each picture and seeing all of the portraits in that corridor
Mm-hmm.
and just get lost in the history and what they had to go through. And it's
Mm-hmm.
very inspiring.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's get into the piece, the Mansion Buddy piece. I am so excited about this. So this is going to be our giveaway for our standby quest. So I would love to know the backstory of this piece. So you have the three hitchhiking ghosts, and then you have the Mad Hatter as the Hatbox Ghost. So give us the backstory. How did this come to be?
So funny story. So it's technically two pieces, and they
Okay.
are about two. The Hatter Hatbox Ghost, it came first. Then about 2.5 years later, the Hitchhiking Ghost came, and the Hatter Hatbox, he came out of what I thought, and I feel embarrassed even saying this again, what I thought was a very unique original idea. Well, there are many artists out there. A good friend of mine is one of them that has done a parody on the Mad Hatter as the Hatbox Ghost. And I was like, man. So I came home from work. I was working in the movie theater one night, and I just wanted to draw. And so the Mad Hatter's outfit seemed very easy to draw. And I wanted to draw the Mad Hatter. I was working on Alice's oh my gosh, I forgot the piece's name. There is an ink bottle drawing that I did, a very unique piece that, again, that was another one that someone else owns now. And I wanted to do this like ink bottle with all the characters flowing out of the ink. Well, I started with the Mad Hatter, and then it just became, all right, well, what if I added like the giant collar? Like, I'll change that up. And then I did some homework on the Haunted Mansion and learned about the Hatbox Ghost. And I was like, hold on, that'd be rad. So then added that to it. So it's probably like 2 in the morning, and I'm now just inking it. I'm watching the cartoon Alice in Wonderland. I am going to town on this piece and having a great time. And so that's where he came from. It was a completely late night. Who knows why I had the energy, but that's where it came from. The Hitchhikers came from when Disneyland was upside down because everybody and anybody wanted the three-piece popcorn bucket. There was that three-piece Hitchhikers one where you can get a sandwich with it, a drink with it, and a popcorn. Like each ghost held some type of different food piece. So seeing that, I was like, that'd be fun to draw. So I just start sketching those three up at work. A few years later, I was working at a youth center, and I'm sketching those up, just playing around with it. And then before I know it, they just start really coming together. Like I'm like, these look really cool. Um, and then it sat in my sketchbook for a few months. Then I decided to vector it, and sure enough, it was working. I was like, I really like this. And so then I did the Hitchhikers, and then that was it. It was the Hitchhikers was one piece, the Mad Hatter was another one. Then a few months later, we got a T-shirt printer at the print shop that I was hanging out at, and that I'm now currently working at. And I did a shirt with just the Hitchhikers on it. And a friend of mine, a coworker of mine at the Taste Center, was like, "Hey, you should do the Hatter Hatbox and the Hitchhikers on the same shirt." And I was like, "Shut up! I don't know why I didn't think of that." So I did that, and then And then all of a sudden, when I did prints to it, the print was just a simple purple background. And I was like, hold on. And then I added the wallpaper to it. And then before you know it, this piece just became done. Like there was nothing else more you can add to it that was like, oh, that's too much. That's, well, I lied. There was one change. The hitchhikers were transparent a smidge, so that way they looked like ghosts, but it looked funny because obviously the Hatbox Ghost is a ghost still too. So why isn't he transparent? So then I made him transparent, and then it just looked like the print quality was bad. So I was like, you know what? I won't do that. So then they went back to being regular looking. They were not transparent at all. So it went through a mild change there, and then ever since then, that piece has always been on me. It gets a lot of people stopping and talking about it. And for a little while there, that was like my most sold print. It has slowly worn its welcome. But then again, though, I've had that piece now in rotation probably about 3 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, so that piece has went through a lot of different versions of it before being what it is today.
Wow.
Yeah,
That is really cool.
yeah, that was a fun one.
And I love like looking at it, I can tell that like I can see visually how the iterations would have come to be and how you're describing it, but I love how it came together. And it looks like it's been that way the whole time,
Yeah,
you know? So that's really cool to hear the backstory. Like these are two completely separate pieces,
yeah, they
and
were.
that's awesome. And I
Imagine,
love the color choices that you have too. Like the cane is like a carrot orange, and it really stands out with all of the blue. And of course, blue and orange are opposite sides of it. So, but like you really get drawn into it. And then with the Mad Hatter being inside the box, but then like you have this green ooze. So then you're like, okay, well, wait, what's happening here? Why is there green ooze? Like I know the hat box goes, but why is there green ooze all of a sudden? So like you're drawn in even more so. And then like we were saying before, like all of the little details in there, like how the Mad Hatter is standing is very Mad Hatter, like with it's not just Hatbox Ghost stance, it's the Mad Hatter stance,
yep,
and you have with the hitchhiking ghost, you have like the top hat is or the bowler hat is a little askew, and you see the crack in his head, like all of these little details, and just how they're positioned too. Like it's perfect. It's so cool.
and the way the hitchhikers are positioned is actually different compared to the original. So the original,
Really?
yeah, so the original, the two outer ghosts that are looking in on the Hatbox Ghost, they are actually on the opposite sides. So I think I have that. One second, let me pull that open.
No way.
So yeah, because when I drew it, I thought it was cool, but it looked funny when I was vectoring it. It bugged me for some weird reason. I never could really give myself an answer of why I thought it was weird, but it just looked funny. And so I decided when I vector it, I am gonna change it. And so let's see, here he is. Pull him out. And actually the original looks completely different than, so here is the,
No way.
so yeah, so there's the original. The spider webs along the edge were painstakingly long. But
Oh, I
yes,
bet.
here's the original. And yeah, they just looked funny looking away. So
Yeah.
I flipped them inside Illustrator and they became on the opposite sides. And the color scheme is different. On the
Right.
print, they have that Haunted Mansion ghost like effect. On this one, I
Right.
give them more of a human tone, except for the skeleton guy is all bone color.
Right.
Yeah.
That is
Yep.
crazy.
And this is just, it was drawn on a simple piece of printer paper. Just, and I show people this, like, this isn't no high quality paper. Like, if this hits water by any means, or any type of moisture, it is gone. It is super thin paper. It was just a computer paper at work that I sketched on and just kept on going.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah. So yeah, that piece. Talking about it, I didn't realize how many variations and revisions it went through before it is what it is. But yeah, that's where it's at now, and it is one of my favorite pieces. There is about 8 or 9 t-shirt renditions out there that were either mess up prints, and I messed like this. It wasn't messed up, but the design was more to the right or the left instead of being center. So I gave
Mhm.
those to people. I think I sold one t-shirt with this design. I know my kids have a Redbubble version of it, which looked it came in very bad because it was washed out. But there's probably about 9 shirts in rotation, and each one is completely different than the other because I was just trying new things or using new manufacturers or adding more. At one point, there was spider webs behind them and on the wall, and then it was just too busy, so I took that off. Yeah, and then the green ooze. So for a lot of my pieces, especially in the earlier days, some type of drip paint was the. I always added it to everything. There was so many pieces that had something dripping, and even on today's street sushi, there I added the drip to the tail of the lobster. So the drips are just kind of like a little subtle touch, a signature without being a signature on a lot of my older pieces. And you still see it on some new ones, but I added drips to everything. I mean, even the hitchhikers themselves, their lower torso has a drip coming off. Like it's just their
Yeah.
body, but it's dripping. So, yeah, there's man, talking about this piece really excites me more about it because it is a piece that really went through some trial and error throughout the entire journey.
Yeah. And again, I had no idea that with all the iterations, but too, like the fact that just the backstory that it is one of your earliest pieces,
Yeah.
you know,
I,
and
so that
that's
one,
just crazy.
the hitchhikers say 2020 on them. So that one was drawn in 2020. So
Wow.
the Hatter was probably 2017, 2018.
That is insane. And it was very interesting to see the ghosts with the flesh color and how looking at it now with the blue tone um, skin, if you will. But then the Mad Hatter has this like fleshy tone color, like in the hands and like in the ankles. So
Yep.
it's like very, very different. Like they're all ghosts, but are they? Like it kind of it one adds another color in there. So
And
it's not all blue, but
the original Mad Hatter Hatbox Ghost, the color scheme to that one, I have to find a picture of it, but if I'm not mistaken, I did the color scheme of the Mad Hatter. So he has the green, the gray, the yellow buttons. So his entire outfit in the original is colored to the Mad Hatter from Alice.
hmm. Yeah,
So yeah,
the jacket's blue with the yellow buttons, but then he has like the little shirt of green with yellow and then the
yep,
gray pants.
exactly.
So and that plays to the green of the ooze. So like it draws your eyes around the piece
Mm-hmm.
in very different ways. And it's awesome.
Yeah, no, it is a lot of changes that went to it, and like I said, I'm excited. I'm excited for this piece. I'm excited for somebody else to now have a chance to get this and also look at all the different changes and see what stands out to them. So this piece is it was a good one. It was a fun one, and definitely makes me want to revisit something Haunted Mansion a little bit more.
Absolutely. Well, that is a great segue. Let's talk about how you can win this piece. So, we have our standby quest for the month of February. So, each weekday, you're going to go over to our page and we are going to have an image of something on a ride at a particular park. And you tell us the attraction that that image can be found in. And if you're right, you get 2 entries. If you're wrong, we still give you 1 entry as a thank you for playing. So no harm in guessing. And if you go to the Sunken City Design Instagram or Facebook page, there is a post there. And if you answer that question on that post, you get 5 bonus entries. So go over, give them a follow, Sunken City Designs, and all of the links and everything will be posted. And yeah, that's how you get entered into the drawing. And then on March 1st, we're going to select the winner. So easy peasy.
Definitely.
So I'm super excited about this piece, as you can tell. And like you said, I'm excited to see who the winner is going to be and what they think of this piece as well, and where they put it in their home. So thank you so much, Lewis, for joining us and for chatting with us about Sunken City Designs. And I learned a lot, that's for sure. I had no idea about the history of how you got started and everything. So thank you so much for joining.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm not one of a big personal sharing. I think that's kind of suffocating the art a little bit. I think if I was to share a little bit more, it'd be very helpful to those that are following the art. But I stay pretty quiet on a lot of stuff. And talking about today was really fun. I don't do a whole lot of talking about Sunken City outside of sharing the artwork. So who knows? Maybe I might have to update my bio on my webpage, just need a little bit more in depth about individual pieces and myself as an artist. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, where can the people find you?
So you can find me on Instagram at Sunken City Designs. You can find me on my website, Sunken City Design. It's almost the same thing without an S. We are working on that. And then you can find me on Facebook. I have two Facebook pages. There is a public page and then there's a group page. Just because one or the other page gives you a little bit more features to interact with a guest, depending on how you choose. But you can find me on all social media. You can find me on TikTok. I am working on TikTok. I have about 4 videos, so I'm still working on there. But also, too, if you are a Disney fan or enjoy Disney, you can find me all over the Walt's Apartment Instagram, talking about all things Disney. And then you can also find me there on Wednesday nights as a sponsor of Walt's Apartment Podcast. So you can find me in quite a bit of places.
And coming up, imagine that.
Yes, and imagine I can't even express how excited I am for that. Even though I just forgot about it, I am super stoked for that because now I get to visually talk about redesigning or creating something on all things Disney. So I am excited for that. And then on the opposite end, if you can catch me on the Mad Tea Party, where I do the complete opposite and talk about all negative things Disney. So it's a very topsy turvy type of setup.
That's right. But we're all mad here, so it's
Yep,
fine.
absolutely.
So, do you have any upcoming events or anything?
So there was an event February 10th. It got
Right.
pushed to March 3rd. Um, it is going to be in the Montebello area. And then in May, on May 4th, well, actually, the weekend of May 4th, I will be up in Medford, Oregon for the Medford, Oregon Comic Con. Um, and then for Sunken City, you'll find me also if you are in the Joshua Tree area. I usually pop up in Joshua Tree every Saturday that I'm not doing a show. And as of right now, that's it for art wise. Um, until the summer starts rolling around, then art walks become more available and more happening. So right now, with it being a little more cold, there's not as many art walks going on, and those that are, people have already signed up previously. But as of right now, I'm working to do more art walks in Southern California.
Love it. Well, links to everything will be in the comments. We'll also have everything on our bio and all of that. So, no need to write everything down. We got you covered. And until next time, we'll see you somewhere in the park. Bye for now.